From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey, everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I have Mr. Todd Jones with me for his monthly copywriting segment. And Todd and I are going to talk about business content and parables. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by All-in-One WP Migration, the most trusted WordPress migration plugin with over 60 million sites served. Whether you are switching hosts, changing domains, or moving to a new server, All-in-One WP Migration makes it one click. Try it for free at WordPress.org or visit servemass.com for pro features. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I'm here with Mr. Todd Jones of Copyfight. Hey, Todd, how you doing, man?
Rob, my man, how's it going?
It's going. It's warmer today, so I'm not complaining, as I usually do.
Yeah, we're getting ready to have one of those patented spring storms in Arkansas as of probably tomorrow.
So yeah, we're into spring thaw for a couple of days and then snow, so it's gonna be fun. Anyway, today
we'll have the snow. So
yeah,
in the south,
today
no snow.
Today you wanted to talk about writing business content and parables. How come? What's on your mind?
Well, you've probably seen my Simple Sam stories.
I do.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, you probably find them humorous, or you're probably humored about me doing that. Todd talks a lot about storytelling, so it's a story. So several years ago, maybe 25, I don't know, life it's kind of blurry, but I say 20 plus years ago.
Yep.
Church I was at, the pastor started peddling a book called Who Moved My Cheese? You ever read the book? Yeah.
No, have not.
So it's about two mice who, I don't, have the exact analogy, but basically the cheese gets moved, and this is very much a parable about preparing for change, and which that's what the pastor is doing, trying to get us to prepare for change. And it's really interesting because Sunday in the class that I teach at church, one of the ladies said, well, when I worked at the local newspaper in my 20s, they were going to move the time for when they published the newspaper from the evening to the morning. So they started having us to read that same book, The Change. And she said, I was young and out of college, and it was no big deal to me, but some of the older people were complaining and so forth. So that book has probably been used more times than we can count for leaders trying to get the people to follow this change, because change is really hard for all of us, regardless of what we know. Some people are wired to have change all the time, but most of us are not wired that way. It takes a lot to make a change. So that was an interesting thing I thought about. And then a few years ago, this book came across my attention when I was in a small copywriting group. And it's such an interesting story about the story. So the story is about a guy named Oliver Adams, or Oliver B. Adams, but everybody calls him Obvious Adams. And it's because his secret weapon is always the same. He ignores the distractions and focuses on the most apparent truth. He's a very observational type of guy. Now, the really fascinating thing to me about this book, it's a parable, right? So there's this guy named Oliver Adams. He didn't exist, and anybody could figure out who he was. He worked at an ad agency, and he worked his way up at the ad agency, just taking on these tasks that seemed to be hard to solve, and he would just do the obvious thing, and it would work. Maybe not getting too mired in the details or whatever. But almost as equally interesting about the book is the story behind the book. So this book, which you can get on Amazon, or because it's now in the public domain, you can actually get a PDF copy online for free. There's a number of places that have it. You just go get it, download it, and read it. If you want the paperback, then you can. Somebody's got one for sale on Amazon. You can get. It's a very short book, but it originally came out in the Saturday Evening Post. You remember that? You probably don't remember
Yeah.
it. I think it might have been gone by the time you and I came along. Maybe the tail end of his life was when we were
But
kids.
in those days, it was very common to have newspapers come out at 4 o'clock
Yeah,
because
and this would
what
be on
they
Saturday evening, I guess, was when they would come out.
or even on the Saturday evening. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny you talk about all that. I remember days when we didn't have Sunday newspapers, so the
Mm,
dailies didn't do Sunday, and then you'd
mm,
have
mm,
growing up in Montreal, before the Montreal Gazette went to Sundays, they actually had a paper called the Sunday Express, which is
mm.
basically Sunday
It's
newspaper.
interesting. It's kind of flip flop now, where the weekend papers are usually. I mean, I don't know about now because they ain't been in the newspaper industry in years, but at least when I was living in Texas, the big paper was the Sunday paper, the weekend editions,
Yep,
and we
yep,
had two big ones in the metro: the Dallas Morning News and the Fort Worth Star Telegram. They were both big,
yep, of
with
course.
extensive sports departments. By the way, if you were a sports fanatic, it was a gold mine. A lot of
Except,
great sports
except,
writers.
except, I'm going to stop you. One of the big newspapers, the Washington Post, just fired or laid off, whatever you want to call it, their entire sports department.
Yeah, well, it's changing times, but anyway, this story came out in an edition of the
Yep.
Saturday Evening Post in 1916. Now, back in those days, if you read an older book, you will find they are often very story driven, right?
Yes, sir.
Not a whole lot of, I don't know exactly what happened, but nowadays it's all about. I'm gonna put another book on camera here as well. It's a very small book, just like Obvious Adams, called An Iron Wheel. I need to actually pick it up and
And
read it
and
every
just
day.
for just for those listening, who's the author of that book? They can't see it.
Orison Swett Martin.
Okay, thank
And
you.
basically, he tells stories about people who have an iron wheel. It's a very short book. It's like this particular copy's got 56 pages. So you can like take it to the coffee shop, read a little bit, and read the next day. Or you get like if you're taking a flight, you could get on the flight and probably read it before the flight's over, that kind of thing. I mean, so a really, really short book. But anyway, he just tells example after example. He gives a little philosophical, like philosophy behind what he's talking about at the beginning, but it's example after example. So this is what Obvious Adams is. The story about Oliver B. Adams was about this man who did the obvious thing. Now, here's we talk about, well, 10 years ago, 11 years ago now,
Mm.
in the world of content, everybody remembers Mark Schaefer putting out the story of the article about content shock is coming. Of course, we've
Yep.
passed it now. There's a glutton of content on the web. And then, of course, AI allowed us to do even more. So there's a new word that everybody talks about, actually was entered into the dictionary last year called slop, but it's
Yep.
basically AI slop, or people create mediocre to less than mediocre content using AI. You can create good content with AI, but that's another discussion. But anyway, I just like people. I feel like in general, I mean, this is for anybody who's leading content efforts, anybody who's a founder, CEO of a company, whatever. Find ways to do something different, because right now the noise is humongous. I mean, cutting through and getting attention in this world in 2026 with so much content coming at people. And then the we talked about this last year, by the way, but everybody now is talking about how trust has gone down. You and I talked about this on this show this
We
trust
did.
is going down. And
Yeah.
so now everybody's like, oh, well, trust is going down. So, and then of course you have what I call the algo gods, which is really how you can be visible in the world of everything runs on an algorithm. Google, Facebook, Instagram,
Mhm.
Twitter, all of them
No
run an
question.
algorithm. And then you have AI, which is like a complex algorithm, really, basically, with visibility. And so I'm not saying that you will necessarily cut through the noise doing this, but I think it's an option to create. This is a way you can do storytelling more, at least the way I have used storytelling more. I have this character called Simple Sam. Now, where does Simple Sam come from? He is inspired by Obvious Adams from the old Obvious Adams books that came out. The original one came out in 1916. He's kind of the same way, but he's set in a modern era. So you got this guy. He kind of looks like he grew up like in the middle of America. He wears a ball cap, and he speaks plainly. He understands what's going on, and you think, well, this guy's too. But he comes at you with obvious solutions,
Mhm.
things that matter, and then I can say I didn't really think this originally, but I think there's a slight tinge of Sam Walton in him as well, largely because he fits the mold. And obviously, I'm in Arkansas, so everybody knows Sam Walton in Arkansas, and everybody knows about him. And he was this plain old matter of fact guy who wore a ball cap and drove an old red Chevy pickup. Literally, they have it in the museum. If you go to Bentonville, Arkansas, and you go through the little Walton Walmart museum, whatever it's called, it's kind of an ode to Sam Walton. So you got his obvious, his office kept in a case and preserved, and you got his truck in there, and you got all this stuff. Sam was like a hard worker, he was a lot of things, but he was not, he was one of those millionaires who didn't look like he was trying to make you
A
believe he was a
millionaire.
millionaire.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's a little bit of Sam Walton in Simple Sam. And I have done a number of what I call longer stories, longer episodes, which are on my Substack. Um, and then I have started doing some what I call episodic ones. That means it's like one scene, one thing. And I'm doing that on putting those on LinkedIn. And I've gotten to where I started like writing stuff that's like real to me into it. Like
Yep.
I put one out Monday about customer experience, which customer service, customer experience, which you and I talk about a lot. We rant about, we vent about customer service.
I always
Yep.
vent about customer
Yep.
experience because, but you know what? We do vent about it, and none of us, and I'm going to detour this for a minute. None of us like to share a really good story, and we all, oh, I'm not happy about this story. I'm not happy about that story. So let me interject and share something. Last week, I ordered pizza. The customer service experience from either good or hell, and yes, it's my podcast, so I can use that word. Yeah, and I ended up in a bad customer experience situation through a Canadian company called Domino's. They in the
Oh,
States, Domino's?
Domino's. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like that. So I
Actually, the
ordered
first delivery pizza company in the States would probably be Domino's.
Domino's. So I ordered Domino's because I had a special. And for my friend and I ordered two large pizzas because I had a deal where you got a three topping pizza for $15 plus delivery. And I ordered enough from Domino's that they accumulate points and I had freebies and I just left them alone. And the food was great, but the driver delivery experience was god awful. The driver had to call me three times to confirm the address. Three times. And it was on the bill, by the way. So the address, put it in your freaking GPS and figure it out. We all carry phones. Anyway, fine, 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 fine. And the driver was very surprised when he didn't get much of a tip. That's his problem. Tips are not entitled, folks. They are a privilege and they are earned. So Domino's decided to send Rob a survey within a half an hour after getting my pizza saying, how was the experience? And you know what I
You
marked
told him.
him.
You told him.
Of course I did. I marked them terrible. I said the food was great, as always, but the delivery part of it was, had something to be desired. So what does Domino's do? I'm sure they looked at my account and said, this guy's a regular customer. How do we make him happy? And not that I asked for it, I got a text message within 20 minutes of filling out such survey from a Domino's manager saying, by the way, here's a coupon for good for a month for a free 3-topping pizza on your next order. Sorry. Okay. So what matters here is Domino's took constructive criticism and they did something about it. So they turned around and said, we screwed up here. Let's fix it. And for what it's going to cost them to give me a free 3-topping pizza right now on sale, a value of 15 bucks Canadian, anywhere up to 20, they've kept the long-term relationship going. And they obviously cared more about the long-term relationship. And the reason I mentioned the long-term relationship and this story, because we're talking about storytelling, basically, the one thing you want to do in storytelling, and you know this, Todd, is to build that long-term relationship through the story. That's the important thing,
Yeah.
right?
And in this case, they're keeping the story going by
Yeah,
helping you. They sound like the manager went to the school of customer service, the Simple Sam School of Customer Service,
yeah,
Simple
yeah.
Sam Customer School of Customer Experience. Yeah, yeah. No,
And
it's
and I
and
and I was pleasantly surprised. Like I go into situations like I'm dealing with a cable TV problem right now, and I know when it's done, I'm going to be going in and saying, "Okay, what are you going to do to compensate?" I know that's coming. But this one, to be fair, the food was really good. It was hot. It was their usual standard. So I wasn't storming over the food. I just couldn't believe, how- don't like saying this, but how stupid or naive the driver could be to have to ask the same question 3 times. And it was like, yeah, we know we have a problem, so let's deal with it. What the point I'm making is if you tell the story the right way to keep it going the right way, it's better for business and people need to
yeah. I
understand that.
mean, and the most recent on the Substack of the Simple Sam story
Yep.
is the ROI of knowing your customer's name. Those little things that
Yes.
don't show up in the spreadsheet, like knowing somebody's name, knowing that Rob is a valued customer, long term, spends a lot of money. Let's execute some
Yep.
really good
Yep. Yep.
customer service on the back end to bridge that LTV, that long term value
Oh no,
relationship. So
there's so much value. And I'll give you an example of that. My good friends, Robin and Phil Pencer, own an independent jewelry store. And I've talked about them with you. I've talked about them on the show a lot. They're a good example. They come in and they talk to their customers and they know their customers' backstory. They know what's going on in their life and they're able to sell them appropriate amount of jewelry depending on what the customer wants. I was in my pharmacist 2 days ago, and he knows everything going on in my life, health wise and not, because we talk. And he's able to serve me better because he knows what's going on with me. The best way I
yeah,
describe him
and
is,
those type of businesses, that kind of thing is the lifeblood of those businesses.
yeah,
What I
yeah,
think we get into, especially in the tech SaaS crowd, is we're trying, and this has become an issue, maybe a little bit of a venting for me, but they major so much on scaling that they scale right out of the relationship part of it,
yes,
and
yes.
it's like,
So,
no, you can't do that. And and just to go back on something you're talking about, another little story. Simple Sam may do a story about this one day, but um, my business credit card was expiring last month. I got more emails about that card expiring than I did about, hey, we're just checking in on you, how things going from
Yep.
some of these SaaS companies. Like,
Yep.
imagine if they cared as much about me as they
Yep.
did my credit card expiring. Wow. And it was like an eye opener. It's like they were really concerned and they weren't going to get their money. Well, you know, what
So
about
I
me?
so I run in my business. One of my biggest things we all know is WordPress security. And I um the problem with SaaS companies is they don't stay in touch with existing clients very well. And then when you look at your business expenses, you say, why am I paying ABC.com $500 a year when I don't know what I'm getting out of it? But what did I do today? I sat down this morning with SendFox. SendFox is what I use for client emails. That's an AppSumo product for those who don't know. And I said, okay, I make a point of writing just my customers an email once a month. So I started it off by basically saying, I hope everybody's having a good day and I hope everybody's well. And one of the reasons I say that is not to schmooze it. I really hope my clients are doing well. And then I jumped in and I shared um, a couple things. One was we know WordPress 7.0 is coming out in April at the same time as WordCamp Asia. So we know that April the 7th, I believe, without looking it up. That's coming. We know there's some fraud stuff going on. One of the recommendations I made to my clients, just my client list, they'll probably end up in my Substack down the road, is if you're buying a new computer or a new cell phone or a new video game system for home, do it now. And you say to me, why do it now? AI is driving the prices of memory and hard drives through the roof. So if you look at a portable hard drive, they're up. Oh, I think I looked on Amazon yesterday, and a 4 gigabyte hard drive's up about $35 from this time last year. Portable USB. Memory costs. Our mutual friend Ryan Waterbury and I talk about the tech stack all the time, and he's in the market for a new Mac, and he's not waiting. And interesting enough, you saw Apple released a low-end Mac to compete with the Chromebook genre a little bit on the sub $1,000 range. By the way, sub $1,000 Canadian, it's $799 Canadian. So, but the point I'm making is, I wrote an email saying, "Hey guys, I'm concerned about you. If you're thinking about any upgrades, now's the time. Don't wait." And then I signed it off by saying, what I always do with clients is if you need anything, here's the link. Go and book some time with me. Let's figure it out. So the reason you do that, and it's about communication, and SaaS companies do forget the storytelling. They don't communicate well at all. So I've communicated with my customers. I've told them, hey, I'm concerned about you. By the way, I opened my email. I've given them a couple tips that aren't in my normal Substack, and you get my normal Substack, so you know it's a combination of podcast episodes, and there's always one email a week that's tips or suggestions or things to help you. The last one I wrote about that was about marketing, right? And I referenced a podcast I did with our mutual friend Lee Matthew Jackson on marketing tips. But the point I'm making is you got to use storytelling to stay with your customer and not go silent. And that's the mistake many companies make.
Yeah, well, and certainly one of the things I was talking about was using parables in your content.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, it, anyway, but that's a time honored technique for
Mhm.
storytelling.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
communication with your clients, yeah, that's how you build community, right?
Yep.
Community and
Yep.
communication come from the same word. So
And my clients know I have an open door. They know they can book into my schedule. I've got a client in the town where I'm helping my friend. I'm actually going to go out for coffee with. I haven't seen in about a year. I mean, we talk all the time, but we're going to go chit chat. Um, she's a professor at a community college in the area, so we're going to go have coffee and catch up. And I'm sure, knowing the way that conversation is going to go, most of it's going to be her and I just chatting about the world because the woman is smart, incredibly smart, has a PhD, is very aware, world aware of what's going on. And we know that at the time of this record, the state of the Middle East, it's a bit of a mess
mhm.
right now. Like we know that. And but the value of that is you're communicating and storytelling, and storytelling is a form of communicating. You're building that relationship. You're saying to somebody, hey, I got you. I understand you. I can relate to you. And that's the important value.
Yep. And parable is a great way to teach somebody something with a
Hmm.
kind of disarming, you know,
Yeah, I
rather
agree.
than hitting actually, rather than hitting them over the head with something, just kind of disarming. So it's a
Yeah.
kind of a subtle way of doing things. So
I would say to anybody listening, if they haven't already, jump on over to Substack and find your Substack. It's well worth the read. Um,
Story
I
Vault
read
is
it.
what it's called.
Story Vault. Yep. I read it quite regularly. It's in my inbox. I either read it in email or in the app, depending on where I am. I mean, I do
Those
that.
those Simple
Substack.
Sam stories get kind of long for an app for the email. So I don't know. You might have to go to the app to read the
Yeah.
entire story, but not all of them are that long. That one. Those get long based on what I'm doing. You can practice more long form content on
Hmm.
Story Vault, or I'm sorry, on the Substack. So I do
Yeah.
that. I may do another character soon, but I've just started thinking about that. So we'll leave that for another episode.
And there's a lot of value, you and I both know, to the Substack community. So I'm gonna just because we're on it, I'm gonna hit some. A lot of people say, well, the problem with Substack is you don't own your content. And my argument is beyond even your website, you don't totally own. And people say, "Oh, I own my website." Yeah, but you don't own the hosting platform. You're still renting the hosting platform. And Ryan and I talked about that in an episode that just came out. And I said, yeah. And both Ryan and I have played in some tough industries, cannabis, adults,
Mm,
so on. And there's
mhm,
all even though you own your website, there's still all kinds of restrictions. What I think we need to do is realize sites like Substack, and I do not regret my moving my newsletter to Substack one bit, Todd, not one bit, have a lot of value. But the one thing you got to make sure is take your subscribers and export that list on a regular basis. So if something happens, you can go
mhm.
back to your subscribers. That's what I would say. But the community itself has a lot of value. I think it's more valuable than being in a Facebook community at this point in time.
Depends on the Facebook community, but for the most part, you're right. I'm in a couple that are pretty good, but for the most part, you're right. I think
And I
I'd
should
probably
tell
get
you,
more value from Substack.
and I just joined a new school community just for fun. So
Okay.
I have an upcoming guest, and we are going to talk about podcast monetization and that kind of stuff. And he's got a really good school community, so
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've joined that because it's another avenue. But the point I'm making is make sure you tell your story. And we've talked about this along other things you do. For example, your founder story, right? You got to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta tell it. We've talked about it around your business story. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I tell my story all the time, and you and I've talked about how I hated marketing. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I share that openly, and people laugh and say, "And you're doing this?" I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
because as you said in a chapter you wrote somewhere, wasn't the marketing, it was basically the
The
vehicle, in
teacher,
this case, the teacher.
the
Yeah.
teacher. Yeah.
So you got to
Yeah.
share those stories. And then and the other thing about storytelling is it gives other people hope. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah. We got 4 of them on the founder page at Copyflight. One of them's yours that people can look
Thank you.
at. Anyway, I was able to do 4 of them, and they're all good. They're all different, you know, in that regard.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of hope in all of them, so I can definitely see that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope in it, and there's a lot of sharing experiences. And you and I are both readers, so like you being a passionate storyteller doesn't surprise me because you're a reader. You're working on a book right now. You've written one recently. I mean, um, I'm a reader. I've always got a book on the go. So, I would encourage people to tell that story. And I would also encourage people to pick up a book and put down the phone and the tablet and the computer and look at another
Uh,
avenue to learn a little bit.
I'm trying to read more. I go in spurts, so
Get yourself into a routine like you do getting up, and those who go to a gym or go for a walk like I do, get yourself into that routine. So I'm in a routine where I read the last half hour before I go to bed. I read every night.
that makes the
That's
most
what I do.
sense for me. So I'll probably be working on that
Try,
better
try that.
moving forward.
You'll probably sleep better, Todd. It's better than looking at your phone or a tablet for now, I would say. So, huh.
Depends on what you're reading, but yeah, I agree.
Oh, I've had books. I always tell here I go telling stories again. Here's the value. When I was a college student and younger, I still am a mystery fan. It's a genre I like to read. And we all know the legendary Robert Ludlum, the Bourne series. He
Mm,
passed
yeah.
away way too early. And Robert wrote Born Supremacy, and it came out when I was in college. And the
Mm,
hardcover was like 500 pages.
mm.
There's only one problem. When you're doing college work to 10 o'clock at night and you pick up the book at 10 o'clock that you can't put down at 2:30 in the morning and you've got to be
Yeah.
in class by 9, you know how that goes.
Not good, not
Yeah,
good. Not
not good. So,
good.
anyway, Todd, thanks for joining me. Thanks for talking about storytelling and sharing a little bit of your insight. Go on over to Todd's website and read some of what's there. It's very valuable. And join your Substack. That's the other thing. And the other thing I would say is get Todd to write the story for you. He's really good at it. So, and
Keep telling your story.
yeah, and he's from the great state of Arkansas. So
The great state of Arkansas. Full of a lot of
have a
stories.
have a wonderful day, my friend. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our sponsor, All-in-One WP Migration by ServeMask. Export your entire WordPress site in one click, import it anywhere. No server access needed, no command line, works with every hosting provider. Free on WordPress.org or extension at servemask.com. A very special thank you to Todd Jones for joining this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.